Alright, now we're on. You don't have to repeat all that.
Yep. If anybody wants to recap, just listen to the last episode. So yeah, you ran into these two guys in the temple. Had a little bit of scenery chewing with the two of them. You discovered that they were here for some sort of nefarious purpose. They were looking for some kind of knowledge or maybe some kind of artifact or something like that. And after a little bit of talking, you guys had engaged in combat with them. They weren't the only two in the room. They were also accompanied by four sort of like Sith ghosts that they had been like trying to engage in conversation and trying to like get them to give them something or some kind of knowledge or whatever. They weren't being very cooperative. But when push came to shove and you guys started your combat, the Sith ghosts attacked you guys on the side of the two other Darksiders. The Sith ghosts all took different forms. One of them was somebody who looks very much like Darth Kreia from Knights of the Old Republic 2, but there was no in-universe confirmation that that is indeed who that is. Then there was two other like random human guys, and I believe a Rhodian was the other one. And one of the random human ones had sort of like a brief moment of spiritual contact with Zep during I believe it was a sense or an influence check. It was an influence check that we'll keep sort of in our back pocket for drama later. Anyway, the result of the combat was that all of the Force ghosts went poof. The Quarren guy was killed in an extremely gory manner by Hrak. Unfortunately, during that combat, Hrak had also lost his precious vibro halberd with the chainsaw at the end. But thankfully, we have a master craftsman here in the party, Craftsdwarf.
Finest craftsdwarfmanship.
And you were able to, or so like the combat at the very end was all of you guys facing off against Travgin, who is the human fallen Jedi from before, nicknamed Trevor because it's easier to pronounce than Travgin. And you managed to sort of talk him down with the help of the Force, thanks to Zep. And he is sort of like in like a hazy state, right? He's not like completely on your side or anything. He's not completely against you either. He's not completely a dark sider, not completely a light sider right now. He's just sort of in limbo as he's like figuring his shit out. But pretty much after that happened, before you could really question him a whole lot further, there was the sound of like footsteps and somebody coming in from like a darkened hallway adjacent to this big room that you guys were in, a big creepy dark side room. And walking into the light was like a hunched over, really, really elderly looking dude, like 80, 90 years old. Human, very long beard, long scraggly white beard. He was wearing like some threadbare clothing, looks like it was maybe like spun himself, or maybe like scavenged from something, sort of looking like a sand person, I guess. And attached to all of his clothing was like he was wearing, sort of hooked onto his clothes, a bunch of like pots and pans and cooking tools and basically all of his like survival shit. It was like clanking up against each other in like this comical metal like cowbell sound as he walks. And he comes into the light and he I think the last line that he said was like something about how you put on a good show or something like that, or thanking you for taking care of these guys because he wasn't going to be able to do anything to them himself or something like that. And yeah, that's where we are now.
All right.
So Zep's going to step forward and say, so I guess the first question is, who are you?
Bear with me 2 seconds. I didn't have my notes open.
You may call me Master.
He sort of like chuckles at you in this like old man kind of a way, and he says, "Oh, my name's Rafan.
Riffin.
Rufio."
Are you here to... Okay, so what's your business here?
He sort of like he walks towards you and he's like hobbling. He's got like a cane that he's sort of, or it looks like it's been spun out of like some gnarled wood, sort of Yoda-ish. And he hobbles along on it as he approaches the party. And he says, "Oh, I've been on this planet for decades now. I used to come here as a scavenger. Made good money too. Taking things from these tombs, selling them off world. Then one day I was here on a prospecting trip and my ship broke down. And one thing led to another, and this is where I've had my home now. Going on, 15 years or so. 10 years. You'd lose count."
How far away am I from this guy? Because I was checking out a statue.
Like, do you want a range band, or
Yeah.
you are medium from this guy?
Okay.
And yeah, am I cutting out for anybody, or is it just Furious?
I hear you.
I hear you.
Fine for me.
Yeah, I hear you. I've noticed the voice connect fading in and out here, though, so I don't know if the server's having issues.
Okay, I still have 3 bars on my little voice connected thingy, so we'll see where we go. Okay, but you got the gist of it, though, didn't you, Zep? Okay, yeah, we'll just keep going then. So yeah, Killbot, you're in medium range. Were you doing something? Killbot shoots him.
Yes. Kill him immediately. No, I'm gonna let Zep continue his line of questioning. Did we decide on what I found in the statue? You can
Ooh,
PM me the deets.
I totally forgot about that. Let's. Is it okay if we do that like in the space between sessions? Because I want to actually look through what sort of loot options there are to give you there.
Okay, sure.
I forgot about it last week. Sorry. Yeah, TLDR, you were inspecting a statue of this totally not Darth Kraya person, and you found a secret compartment, and inside that secret compartment was something to be determined later. We'll say it's like a little package that's sort of wrapped up, and maybe Alice doesn't want to unwrap it in front of everybody or something.
Oh, it's an ancient Christmas present. Santa the Hutt was here.
Totally not writing that idea down at all. So yeah, elderly dude, been here 10, 15 years, used to be a prospector. His ship broke down. He's been stranded here. He's sort of made a life as a subsistence scavenger, I guess, here on this planet now.
So while Zep's still reconnecting, I guess I'll continue the line of questioning. So just thinking back, when did this guy, Soldier Ward, disappear? Was that 20 years ago?
It was like 22 years ago. It's whatever, like maybe like a year before the end of the war.
Yeah, and this guy looks nothing like him.
No, he's way older than Soldier Ward would be. Like Soldier would be by now probably like 60, sort of like Travgin's age. Whereas this guy looks like pushing 100 maybe.
Man.
He's basically the image that Azayas linked in Discord.
Oh boy.
Except without the racism.
Ah, yes.
Uh,
Oh, is Zep back now?
I see you keying up Furious, but I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I can't hear anything either.
Who cast silence on Zap?
Discord and audio properties.
When that happens to me, I found it helps to close Discord and restart it as admin.
So, Gunnis will ask the guy, is there anyone else? Has anyone else been here with you? Have you been alone?
Says, well, besides our two friends here, and he sort of points his cane at the dead Quarren on the ground, and Travgan, who arrived pretty recently. There's only been, this entire time, maybe 2-3 other people. They come and go, other scavengers like me. There's one person that stood out though, but he's dead a long time now.
And why did he stand out?
He was a very intense individual. He had a sort of magnetism about him. I couldn't sort of resist his company. He was very charming, but seemed very dedicated to some purpose that he wouldn't go into. In the end, when he arrived on the planet, he was wounded. He wouldn't say exactly how. His clothes were all stained and bloody, and over time, the blood sort of caked onto him. He lived for about a month or two, but then eventually succumbed to his wounds. This was probably. Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question? I'm a little hard of hearing. You're gonna have to speak up.
Did he give you a name?
Yes, he told me his name was Ward, and he told me to be on the lookout for people that look a lot like you. And he looks to the hut and to the gank and to the Trandoshan in the room specifically, because you guys are like the easiest identifiable of the group.
Oh yeah, he did have the foresight.
Zep, on that roll, I am going to flip a destiny point and say that because you are deep in the like underbellies of a Sith tomb, that pretty much anything is clouded down here, and you have a really hard time getting a read on him at all. And I hope you can hear this, and it's not just like complete Discord fuck up on. Okay, good. You can hear.
Congrats, you can use a control upgrade about 6 times.
That is one hell of a force roll, though.
Zep jumps through the crust of the planet.
Let us know if you find the Oak Island treasure down there, buddy.
So, I guess Alice will then ask, so, what did he leave behind?
Well, he in the month or so that he was alive, he was working feverishly on building a place for his final burial. So he left behind a small tomb, sort of like the ones that you find on the planet everywhere, but his is much. It's different, we'll say. It doesn't look quite as evil as the rest of the planet does. I could take you there if you like. He created a little room for me to live there as well, so that I wouldn't have to be living out in the desert my whole rest of my days.
That'd be great.
Oh, how nice. How nice of him and of you.
His one caveat of all this, though, was, he granted me a room at his place and basically left the place to me. But he did tell me to be on the lookout of a group of 6 people from beyond this planet who would come and be on the trail of something. He described some of you in quite intricate detail, and he looks to Zep, and curiously also looks to Argon.
We're a little hard to miss. That's true.
Yeah, he like he's basically not in your face at this point, but he's like at short range to you now, and he as he says this, he sort of like circles some of you like a little bit just to like appraise you and say, yes, you do. Yeah, the cut of your chin looks exactly like the way he described.
So he must have thought about some of us pretty hard. Is there a problem with that?
Are you asking him or are you asking everybody else in the party?
No, I'm asking him. I'm like, so what? Is there a problem with what Ward foresaw of us?
He only told me that that you would be coming and that I should keep an eye out for your people with your physical features, and that in death he would be magnanimous enough to give you what it is that you're looking for, and to hand over his knowledge to you. Of course, I don't have that knowledge. I'm just a scavenger.
And did Ward ever foresee anything about this guy? And Alice points to Trevor.
That's a good one. I have to think about it since Trevor's not actually in this adventure module. He says, yes, of course, he envisioned this man, and then he looks down at the corpse of the Corrin next to him and his compatriot. He informed me that they would be on this planet and that I should give them a wide berth, but ultimately they would be meaningless to how these events unfold. You see, Soldier had an uncanny, or Ward had an uncanny knowledge of the future.
Yeah, so we gathered. Well, I'm ready to make the trip.
Yeah.
How far away did you say it was?
Oh, it's not that far. We can walk from here. It's sort of a long walk. I might need to stop every now and then. I am an old man. Maybe 5 kilometers or so. And it should be daylight soon, so we could head out then. Might be the ideal time. You don't want to be wandering around this planet at night.
Yeah, daylight is good.
That's fine. Let's take a rest and wait a few minutes then until it's daylight, and then you can lead us there. Genis is kind of looking like sharply sideways at everybody else, like, be cautious, being the undertone.
Yeah, Zep is keeping his eyes pretty closely trained on Old Man.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Did you have to switch microphone or?
It's not ideal. It looks like the my laptop has a corrupted installation of Discord, and that might be part of what's causing the audio cut in and out. And my microphone isn't getting picked up on my desktop, so womp womp on both accounts. This is better than nothing, though.
It's still fine.
You sound fine.
Yeah, quality is just fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Zep is continually kind of keeping an eye out. Every now and then he's going to try and pull like a Ward's foresight on him just to get some sort of hint, but I'm guessing that destiny point is making it too dark side cloudy for anything. So he's just going to have to keep his actual eyes peeled.
Okay. So the party does a short rest basically until the sun rises. Is there anything you wanted to do in this Sith tomb on your way out?
Recover strain.
Yep, everybody can do that.
Is there anything around to look at? Any small amount of exploration to be done before the morning?
Let's maybe open this up. You tell me what you see, or what you think you could see, and then I'll tell you if you do or not.
Were there other tombs or type things other than the one statue that Alice already went through?
So this place is like the writing on the wall that Alice had seen indicated that this was the tomb of Exar Kun. It was like a Sith Lord from just before the Knights of the Old Republic era. But you've seen like statues of various other Sith, so maybe it's like maybe a tomb for this specific guy, but he decorates it in a way that like he reveres other Sith or something like that, or maybe some other Sith like who followed in his footsteps came and either buried themselves here to be closer to him, or like put statues of themselves in here to, I don't know, satisfy their ego or whatever. You don't really see any like sarcophagi or anything, but it could be that this is a tomb for multiple people.
All right.
So we're walking out of the tomb. Are there like passageways, chambers, and all that kind of stuff?
Yep. If you so there was like a stairway that would lead you down, or if you're Gunnis, you can take your rocket boots or whatever back up the way that you came.
I'll stick with the group.
There's like a pictured as like a grand stairway going like down deeper and deeper into the tomb, and you guys are at the bottom of it. And sort of like every so often there's a landing, and it'll take you off into like a smaller sort of like branch in the tomb. Sometimes it's a series of hallways that just seems to like go on and on endlessly, and sometimes it's literally just like somebody had carved a room out on a level and made it for their own use. Oftentimes, like it's a lot of stuff about, or it looks like it would be like somebody carved out a room for themselves, and like we're basically staking a claim to this part of the tomb for themselves, again as like an ego exercise to attach themselves to some like huge well-known Sith Lord. Basically a whole bunch of Dark Jedi giving them like their egos a huge wank. Bunch of rooms like extolling the virtues of, or the vices of Darth so-and-so, Darth Icky.
Yeah.
But in terms of like actual stuff, beyond what you found earlier, unless you wanted to do like very, very detailed, like honing in on something specific, it seems like the place is generally pretty well picked over, especially especially as you get up into the higher levels of the tomb, back up towards the surface.
Yeah, picked over by scavengers. Actually, Alice will ask the person small talk as they're going up the stairs. She's like, so anything interesting you found? That's for sale, perhaps?
The old man sort of chuckles to himself as he hobbles up these stairs, and says, "Oh, yeah, in my day, I found quite a few interesting artifacts that sold for quite a pretty penny to some collectors from the Corps. One chunk of artifacts that I found included a few weird-looking, like they were like pyramid-shaped metal objects about the size of your fist. Had a wealthy buyer from some core planet there, some creepy guy with like, he's sort of like balding with red hair, had like a weird accent, said he was from a place called Babu or something. Naboo, that was it, Naboo. He bought a whole shit ton of my stuff.
Oh, nice.
But since then, since I've been stranded, occasionally I'll find a little trinket here and there. Got a little cache of stuff back in my room. If you be interested, we can maybe come to an agreement. He doesn't have anything on him though.
Oh no, I'm not picking pockets.
Just trying to see if he has the Dead Sea Tupperware.
He's got some like relic of Christ.
Does he look like he's having a lot of trouble with the stairs?
He seems like I don't know, like an old guy, right? Like he seems like he can get around fairly well. He just needs his time to do it. He doesn't have a whole lot of like flexibility or energy anymore. Just sort of slow and steady wins the race. Occasionally he'll have a little bit of trouble with one, but he just leans on his cane and pushes himself up. He seems like he's sort of used to looking after himself on this planet.
Okay. So Gunnis sort of is watching him. Like, he's not being obvious about it, but he's sort of watching him a little suspiciously. See if he can find any, like, inconsistencies, or if the guy acts strange in any extra ways or obvious ways.
Let's do that. I would think that'd be a perception thing. Let's give it a. Well, we'll call it hard, and I'll give you a boost for your exacting eye for detail. Okay. Yeah, you sort of you watch this guy as he walks along, and you could get the feeling that, like, yeah, he is an old guy. That pretty much confirms itself. You get the feeling that maybe he's got more energy than he lets on a little bit. Like, he probably does struggle legitimately a lot of the time, but you also get the feeling that sometimes it's maybe more as like putting on the show of being like, I'm an old guy. Maybe sort of hamming it up a little bit, maybe hoping for some sympathy points with this group of people.
Okay, that just makes me watch him a little more closely. That's all. I don't say anything or anything like that.
Is Trevor looking nervous?
Yeah, that's a good point. You guys didn't really interact with Trevor much because at the end of the last session, like, we didn't have a ton of time. So, what do you like? Do you engage with him at all, or do you just sort of expect him to follow you, or?
I mean, we used the Force on him, so what's he doing? Did he just stay there?
He's not like zombied out. It was I took it as like at the role that Zep did as more like using the Force to sort of give a little bit more credence to Zep's argument that this guy should come back to the light or whatever. Not necessarily zombifying him like it could be the case with somebody who's not Force sensitive.
Yeah. Rules question. There's an upgrade for that. Because if it's not that, then it's the zombified version of influence.
Zep, what does your your influence tree look like?
Oh, did we lose him again?
Or he's looking for his character sheet, maybe. Or actually, I guess I can look at his character sheet in Roll20 if it's up to date.
I rarely update my Roll20. I just update the PDF and I post it to the thread. But I also haven't spent anything in like 3 sessions.
Saving up. Gonna get a shit ton of XP today probably though, so get ready.
Today seems like it's gonna be the time to spend.
Let me pull up Zep's sheet here real quick. All right, which upgrade are you thinking?
So if you want to influence a guy and not make them believe something that's not true, it's the one that allows you to add successes to a social check.
Yep, it looks like Zep has he's got the one before that. It looks like he's got control, emotion, belief. The Force user may make an opposed discipline versus discipline check. Blah blah blah. Combined with the influence power check, if the user spends force and succeeds on the check, he can force the target to adopt an emotional state or believe something untrue, lasting for 1 round or 5 minutes. So yeah, he actually is a zombie, assuming that that is something that Zep wanted to trigger last time.
Well, to be fair, like, we would really have to rewind quite a bit if we're changing it after the fact to be that, because, like, I think the entire end of that goes completely differently if that's not the case.
Yeah. Or I would maybe rule it as like maybe his disposition changes after a period of time that is dramatically acceptable, and he sort of goes back to his default state of mind. I'm not going to do it as the actual 5 minutes that the rule says, because that seems like you mentioned, a lot of rewinding.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they came up with that time limit, but whatever works best for the story.
Well, so sorry, I had to run away for a second. Are we talking about Travgin and how my force compel wouldn't have made him completely change his mind forever and ever and ever?
It wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I never intended it to. I just wanted him to disarm. So honestly, at this point, he's probably, I mean, I can't imagine he would keep trying to fight, even though he's completely overwhelmed, outnumbered, and unarmed. So, I mean, my thought would be that he'd probably be essentially treated like a prisoner by us. We'd have him in custody, not necessarily in binders. We could if everyone else wanted to. But I would just say that at this point, he's either going to try and escape, or he might genuinely be rethinking everything.
Yeah, it depends on how angry he is.
I mean, he did watch his buddy get completely disemboweled.
That wasn't really his buddy.
Well, I mean, his companion, his
prisoner.
I don't know if he was protege at that point, but prisoner, yeah. So I mean, he knows what this group is capable of, and essentially he's being told he's got another chance.
Yeah, I'm asking because if he's like looking kind of shifty, Alice is gonna keep a close eye on him, while Gunnis is keeping a close eye on our guide.
Okay, then we'll go with sort of what I said, is that like he'll at some point have like maybe come back to his senses a little bit, or change his mind about this whole thing. But for the moment, he'll sort of follow along with you. I think his general disposition, he seems like, so if you're keeping an eye on him, like he's got his brow is furrowed this entire time, like he's deep in thought. He's got his eyes are sort of darting left and right occasionally as he sort of like daydreams a little bit, and is wrestling with this mental block through the force that is affecting him.
Well, again, Zep isn't trying to force him to change his mind about anything. He was just forcing him to disarm. Everything else, unless you're saying the block is due to the dark side, I would consider it just an issue of Zep said, all right, you should disarm now. And that's it. That's the extent of his mental tampering.
Okay, then I misunderstood what the intent of the role was. I didn't know that it was, or I misunderstood that it was to disarm him and not to like get him to stand down and like actually stand down as a hostile permanently. So like what do we want to do? We can rewind a little bit and sort of resolve what you do with him back in that tomb if you want.
Honestly, I think it would make more sense to not rewind and essentially change the my intention, right? So rather than just disarm, Zep said, come with us, I guess, right? So, but that's still like Zep understands that that's not going to change his mind for any period of time. Like the compel is just brief. So I honestly, I don't know.
I'll keep an eye on him, and also it would be a bad idea to leave him down there in the tomb, because Alice remembers what she read at the entranceway. Like, whoever reaches the end of this thing achieves real ultimate power. So she's like, yeah, I'm not going to let someone do that.
One might say unlimited power.
Maybe.
Limitless.
Yeah, I think logically too, dude is surrounded by 6 people who just cut his buddy to shreds in like no effort whatsoever. or like medium amount of effort. So he would probably stand down as an aggro and sort of maybe think about ways to get away or what his next steps are, ways to turn on you, etc.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
sort of a prisoner without the binds.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's. I'm sure there will be a juncture in this story at which things can get very interesting. But yeah, Alice is like, eyes forward, keep walking, don't try anything funny.
He acknowledges you barely. It's mostly like if he does look in your direction, it's mostly with like a humph and sort of like reluctantly continuing on because he knows that you guys hold all the cards right now. He can't do a whole lot, but maybe his eyes are sort of shifting around every so often, and you notice he's like maybe looking out routes of escape or things that he can use against the party or something like that. He does seem quite interested in the old man, though, too. Pretty much just as you guys are. He maybe he didn't know that the old man was down in the tomb when him and his protege were down there. But yeah, you guys make your way up towards the ground level again. And as you come towards the entryway that you all came in through to enter the tomb in the first place, you see that the first rays of sunlight are starting to peek through. And if you walk out, it's a very sort of hauntingly beautiful dawn on the planet of Korriban. Sort of looks like the picture in the Roll20 a little bit. And the old man, I sort of picture him being like at the head of the group, even though he's walking so slowly. He steps out of the tomb and he takes a big deep breath, and he says, it may not be much, but I've come to appreciate the mornings on this place. It's strangely calming seeing the sunrise after a very long night.
Yeah, because nothing's alive here.
Says, yeah, that's true. It's a very solitary place. Yeah, it does the Teletubbies sun rising thing. The sun sort of is a baby that chuckles at you.
Does the dark side smell like Folgers? The best part
of is the dark side in your cup.
Interesting that you've managed to stay so healthy on such a dead planet.
Oh no, I'm getting Discord connectivity things on my little status monitors too.
Hope it's not contagious.
You infected me. So who is doing the beautiful orange painting right now? The old man sort of like he pats his belly, and it's clear that he's pretty well fed. Maybe he's got like a little paunch or something under his threadbare clothes. And he says, well, my scavenging days did also teach me to be prepared for anything. I've got a nice little garden that I planted back at the house. It's not much. Not much grows on this planet. It takes a lot of work. But the space potatoes keep me fed, keep me fat, keep me carved up. And occasionally, when somebody comes to the planet, their ships crash on the planet, I can loot them for some rations. Those are the special treat. I like this steak with banana sauce.
I'm just envisioning like the cannibals from Judge Dredd.
Or like the people living in the underground in fucking what was it? The Wesley Snipes, Sylvester Stallone, Demolition Man. Eating like rat burgers.
Yeah, that sounds very nourishing.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like much, but it keeps me alive, and at the end of the day, that's what counts, right? He picks up his cane and sort of like pokes it off into the distance as if he's gesturing to something. Says, "House is that way. Let's get a move on. It'll be maybe about 2 hours walk or so at our pace. Be there just in time for settling in for some brunch. And I guess you guys follow him, making your way off into the sunrise. Not the ship, the actual sunrise.
Cool.
All right.
Hey, TBG.
Oh man, sorry I'm late.
No worries. It's mostly like we haven't done a whole bunch. We started a little late, and then like basically now we're sort of following that old guy that you guys met in the tomb, the like 80-90-year-old dude who's covered in like robes and pots and pans and shit like that. He says that he knew Soldier Ward back in the day when he came to this planet, and that Soldier arrived wounded, and he lived for about a month or two and then died. During that month or two, he built like a little mansion for himself as like a tomb. Said the old guy could live there after he's gone, provided the old guy did him a service, and he told the old guy about the visions that he had of the future. Specifically, he told him that a group of people from Offworld, 6 of you, and he described exactly the way some of you looked, would arrive, and that when they do, that they should be taken to Soldier Ward's house, because Ward had left basically his knowledge behind for this group of people because he sort of foresaw your quest. And
Kick-ass.
that's where we're. You guys are like following him now.
Awesome.
What happened to the band van, by the way? Did we leave it behind? I forgot.
It was trapped in this the sandstorm, like it wouldn't work anymore. So we said we were going to come back for it. I was going to actually suggest that maybe we go by and see if it's working now to make the journey shorter.
Oh yeah.
The old man is totally open to that idea. Says, yeah, anything that gets me off my feet for a while is welcome in my book. So you can make your way back to the band van. We'll say like by the time you get there, the van is like covered with a thick layer of dust from the sandstorm, but otherwise it seems undamaged. Didn't take any like external damage as far as you can tell. The sand is sort of caking away some of the, or like obscuring some of the airbrush art on the side.
That's always unfortunate.
Oh, well, we got to get this out of here quickly then.
If it starts now.
Give me a. We'll just do an average mechanics check on the thing to check it out, and then if there's anything wrong, we'll let you know, depending on the roll of that check.
Average check it is.
Zep can assist.
Excellent.
All right, so the van is in working order. It seems like maybe you turn the key a couple times, it turns over, and then the engine starts purring again. Big old like cloud of like dust spouts out of the exhaust pipe. Ideas on the advantage?
Maybe I hook one of the sensors up to the filters to let me know if it's starting to clog up with sand, so I know in advance if it's going to stop working.
Okay. Yeah, I'll treat that as like the van will alert you if it senses that some sort of inclement weather is going to be approaching that might affect it in some way.
Cool.
So do we all get out and push?
No, it's running.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like buried in the sand or something.
No, it had like a coating of sand on it, but it's not like actually buried in it.
Okay. Alright, I climb in.
The old man looks at the vehicle and like maybe like scrapes away some of the sand on the side of the van, revealing like, I don't know, man, like a space wizard whose face is a skull or whatever like cool Star Wars metal art you guys have on the side of the van. It says, "Oh, I remember back in my day, I was quite the rocker too." He like starts playing like an air guitar, Star Wars air guitar.
jizz band that we borrowed it from. We're pretty rocking.
And he climbs aboard. He gets in the passenger seat so that he can better direct you guys to where you're going. Who's gonna drive?
Gunnis was before. He'll do it again if no one else does.
Sure. Yeah. Just kind of squeeze into the van. It's always a challenge.
Alice is sitting in back, so she can keep an eye on Trevor. It totally is the Mystery Machine.
Trevor, so I described him as being like a sort of like a tall, broad guy, like really broad shoulders. He barely fits into the back of the van. Like I imagine he fits in the van about as comfortably as Hrak does. Although no, you guys have a hut with you too, so maybe he's like squeezed up against one of the walls of the van because of the hut.
See, who needs binders?
I have binders, but I don't know that are they necessary?
Yeah, he's a Force user. It doesn't matter.
Just so long as he doesn't get a hold of the lightsaber that I'm holding. I guess Zep is keeping it safe for him.
Keeping it warm.
Well, friend, show us the way.
He seems kind of excited as like the van rolls along. He seems kind of excited to be back in a vehicle again, like sort of like whooping along as you guys zip past these like stone arches or whatever that are scattered around the planet. And he points you in the right direction. The place that he's taking you is sort of away from this valley of tombs that we see in the image in Roll20, and sort of like out into the open desert. Or it's not really a desert, like there's not like dunes or anything, but it's like a Death Valley type thing. Basically a wasteland. You follow his route for about the 5 kilometers or so that he said, and sort of seeing it off in the distance as you approach, you see this house getting bigger and bigger as you get nearer, and you pull up in front of the place that he points out to you. It's basically it's like a small little stone mansion, maybe like 2 stories, out here in the middle of nothing. Like there's nothing surrounding it whatsoever. You see maybe that there's off to one of the sides of the house, there's like a moisture evaporator set up, sort of like a very crudely built one made of like spare parts. And there's also like a tent fluttering in the breeze that's sort of attached to one side of the house near the moisture evaporator. But yeah, aside from that, the place looks pretty pristine. It's well kept up. The elements haven't really been unkind to it whatsoever. It's basically like it's got sort of a rough-hewn character, like it was built by basically one Force user, presumably with the power of the Force. It's functional.
You see these tool marks? Obviously a Force user.
Yeah, Gunnis will say he built this himself in just a month or 2.
Yeah, it's quite impressive, actually.
And with wounds at that.
The old man says, yeah, it was a sight to see. It's something I'll never forget, that's for sure. Old soldier would come outside in the morning. He'd sit himself down here on the ground with his legs crossed. It was really strange. Close his eyes, and suddenly all these... It was like the house was being built by the planet itself. The stone would rise out of the earth, and the ground would tremble as the walls erected themselves from nothing. He was pulling the stones out of the ground to build his home. Took him about 3 or 4 weeks. But it's bigger on the outside than it actually is on the inside. It looks a little bit more grand than it is. Come on, I'll show you.
All right. Gunnis looks a little put off by the shock of such a large construction in such a short time by just a single person.
Yeah, the way he describes it, like the place if it's truly as he described it, it would maybe look a little bit rougher than it actually is. Like there's been some level of craftsmanship here. Like some of the stone is like smoothed, and there's some engravings occasionally in the stone. Also, there's a few crude-looking statues that seem to have been carved out of some stone that was raised out of the ground. The statues, as you get closer and you see them, a couple of them are like grotesque, like gargoyle type things. Sort of just like spooky dark side artwork, basically. But there's one, as you approach the entryway, it's taller than most of the rest. And it has two figures sort of carved out of it. You can tell that the person who carved the statues didn't really, like he or she wasn't a sculptor. It was just sort of maybe a skill that somebody had taught themselves over a period of time. Sort of rough, isn't exactly perfect. But one of the statues you recognize immediately. It looks like a younger version of somebody that you've met before. It's a younger version of Markov, standing beside another human wearing Jedi robes.
Oh yeah,
And
they're
they're-
Markov.
And they're holding hands.
Wasn't this sweet?
Yeah, the human, presumably Ward, looks very stern and almost like angry sad. Whereas Markov, like his face sort of has a like almost a sad look on it too, but sort of like a wistful sad. Like kind of depressed looking a little bit.
As depressed as Play-Doh, I guess. It looks like a Play-Doh statue. If he was unskilled.
Yeah, like you can barely like maybe the face of Markov is pretty accurate, but everything else is not. It's just enough to where you can recognize it. And Ward himself looks literally like Play-Doh. Or like maybe it's one of those like political cartoon things where it's literally like labeled. It just says Jedi on his chest.
Nice. It's misspelled. Jedi.
Gunnis sort of nudges Zep, like, what do you make of this?
Zep doesn't appear terribly surprised by this. He kind of had a feeling this was coming. So he just kind of shrugs at Gunnis and says, I mean, you asking why he would have built a monument to himself and his friend here?
The old man overhears you and pipes up and says, "Oh no, Ward didn't build that. At least not on his own. The fella here on the right," and he points to the statue of Markov. He says that was done by Ward before he died. He meant to complete it, but he succumbed to his wounds before he was able to. So I felt it only appropriate that I finish the work for him. And he sort of like he walks over to the Play-Doh lumpy looking Soldier Ward statue and leans up against it with one of his elbows and says, "Well, what do you think? Masterpiece, isn't it?"
Yes.
Yep, looks great.
Excellent craftsmanship.
Like the eyes are uneven and the nose like points to one side. And Jedi is misspelled. Like his whole name is misspelled.
I'm impressed you managed to get that high up.
Yeah, I had built a ladder at one point. It's broken down years ago now. That was back when I was a little bit more spry than I am now.
Well, if you don't mind our trespass, I think Zep and Alex would probably like a look inside.
All right. He sort of beckons for you to enter. He walks up to the big stone doorways and sort of bless you. He walks up to the big stone doorways and like puts all of his weight into them and leans in and pushes one half of the doors open. And sort of walks in, sort of beckoning you to follow him. And I am going to read actual text from the adventure book now, since we're almost done with it.
Ooh.
So, as you enter the ancient structure, torches ensconced in the walls spring to life, bathing the mansion in sickly purple illumination. You find yourselves in a massive chamber, its great geodesic ceiling more than a dozen meters above your heads. The floor is tiled with stone slabs, each a meter across, and inlaid with letters and symbols in an ancient and evil language. Also, for the purposes of our background, since we strayed a little bit from the novel, I'm going to say there's a decent amount of basic in there too. Alcoves lining the walls contain statues, most of them crude. Many alcoves are empty. Likewise, empty chambers extend from this room in all directions, as though somebody had built this house but didn't build it to completion, never quite moved in. At the apex of the ceiling, there's one thing that does stand out is a massive chandelier constructed from various materials. I'm not reading 100% now from the text. It looks like the chandelier is made from a lot of like scavenged parts. Like you see a lot of pipes and tubes and shit like that, but also a lot of like bones from animals, or maybe some bones that look humanoid and ancient.
Ah, all of his dinners.
And the chandelier sort of flickers with a baleful flame.
Ooh.
And the old man sort of gestures around and says, "Welcome to my home, the mansion of the former Jedi Knight Soldier Ward." And he sort of like points off in various directions and says, "Well, my room's that way, kitchen's that way, burial chamber's that way. I imagine you'll want to get to what you're doing, but of course you're welcome to be my guests for as long as you like. Don't let the creepy purple lighting bother you. It's always been that way. I don't know how Soldier Ward did it, but there it is."
Yep, purple's a good color. Totally getting creeped out.
Yeah, Guinness sort of just rolls his shoulders and says, "Well, where do the two of you want to start?"
So I'm sorry, is he giving us free reign of the place?
He's asking you what you want him to show you first. Like he'll come with you.
The kitchen.
Well, I guess Zep's going to look at Alice and say, so what were we seeking?
Probably what
It's
was
kind of trying to imply that she should use seek again without actually saying that.
Oh. She's going to mundanely put two and two together and go, let's check out the burial. We're gonna press F to pay respects.
The old man nods and says, "Yes, that is exactly what Soldier said you would want to do first. I can respect getting to the point of the matter as quick as you can. Well, let's not waste any time then." He sort of waves you on. He makes his way down one of the various hallways that sprout out from this room. As you pass like through various rooms, you see a lot of the rooms are sort of, like I said, empty, never moved into. The hallways past this like grand entranceway look much rougher than everything else. It looks like they never got around to like properly decorating this place, or I don't know, engraving shit on the walls and stuff like that. Eventually you get to a large stone doorway shaped like a big circle, like picture a big hobbit door, sort of. And stenciled onto the doorway in two languages. One is basic, another one you don't understand or really can read. But it's clear that they're like, because they're positioned side by side, it's probably like it's saying the same thing in two languages. You see, it says, "Beyond is the final resting place of the great Jedi Knight Soldier Ward."
Great, huh?
"Abandon hope, ye who enter." No, I'm kidding.
So does this look like way more grandiose than the stuff the Jedi had built, or is this just kind of keeping in line with the general architecture that the Jedi made?
You can tell the place is definitely influenced by Jedi architecture. Like it seems much more Jedi than the Sith tombs on this planet, probably because that's what Soldier Ward was more familiar with. The door, we'll say the door stands out in that it's much more intricately detailed than any other part of the house. Like it looks like it wouldn't be out of place in like I don't know if Jedi have burial chambers or maybe the ancient Jedi did. It seems to be that intricate.
I guess the main thing I'm asking is, does it seem like this is like self-aggrandizing? Like he's made himself a wonderful palace, or is it just like he's had a lot of time on his hands?
No, it's definitely self-aggrandizing. Like a Jedi of his stature wouldn't have gotten their own palace.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so yeah, Zep's just kind of looking around, vaguely unimpressed with the whole thing.
I thought the purple was cool. But I did a seek roll, and I'm gonna make this spicy. So I'm going to use the dark side pip from the planet in addition to the light side pip I roll. So flip one destiny point from light to dark.
Also, is Alice still Paragon or no?
No.
Okay.
So make the flip, and I'll take a strain and tell me what I see.
What upgrades do you have on Seek at this point?
I just have the basic power, so general location of something, regardless of distance.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of, I'm envisioning the holocron as Zep holds it, the square, typical Jedi holocron. I'm envisioning that, probably also envisioning the Gatekeeper to help me know the direction of this artifact.
Okay. I'm gonna describe like what the old man is doing real quick before I give you the results on that.
Cool.
Like as you guys are looking at the door, or maybe as you are delving into the Force to seek out this thing that you're looking for, he has approached the door and sort of laid two of his palms on it. And once he does this, the door like rotates and slides away and opens up into the burial chamber. And he walks in slowly. The place also has like creepy purple lighting. So your seek roll, you get the overwhelming indication that what you're seeking is directly in front of you. And I'm going to say the dark side indication of that is that you get an overwhelming feeling, maybe the most certain seek roll you've ever had, that what you're looking for isn't actually within the room itself as an object. It's our old friend, the old man.
I'm going to keep a very close eye on the old man, which also, by the way, means I don't keep a close eye on Trevor.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's sorry.
Then maybe at that moment, I'm gonna have Trevor roll something. I gotta pull up a stat block. Beyond Alice, was anybody keeping especially close watch on Trevor, since several of you were watching the old guy?
I want to say Zep has been going off and on with Ward's foresight on him, just to kind of stay one step ahead of him.
Yeah, I was definitely watching him, but I don't really have a particularly great like perception or anything.
I would imagine I've been following behind everyone, sort of trying to keep an eye on the whole group. So don't know about specifically paying attention to him, but trying to keep him and the old man in frame at all times.
Okay. Then since Darius just mentioned a bathroom break, I'll describe what he does real quick, and then we'll take a short restroom break. I have to roll for him what he's doing, though. Give me a sec.
Use all the upgrades. Give us light side.
Nope.
Damn it.
Okay, where are you at? There you are. Oh, oops, that was the wrong roll. Okay, he also gets an extra pip because it's Korriban, Dark Side pip. So basically, as this is happening, as the old guy walks into the room, as Alice does her sense, as Alice takes her eyes directly off of Travgan, even though other people are watching him, he sort of looks around and senses his moment. Now that he's in this empty mansion, and you feel like a not like a gust of wind, but like you feel the air in the room sort of pulling in a direction. It's like pulling itself towards Travgan, like sort of whirling around him a little bit. And in like a split second, he imbues himself with a massive amount of force power and literally like sprints with like all of his speed away from you through these hallways, moving to extreme range.
It's the Flash.
He force flashed his way out. Yeah.
Cue the Benny Hill theme.
For that too, since that's like a story thing, I'm gonna flip a destiny point to say he did that.
Now, just to be clear, this is something that just happened, and this isn't just the foresight Zep is getting, right?
This happened. We'll say also that because this will play into the rest of the adventure, we'll say that that isn't something that you foresaw. You foresaw him coming into the room with you. And you clearly foresaw him speaking with the old man about something, like questioning the old man about Soldier Ward. And with that,
Right, cool.
we'll take 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Like we'll do, or we'll come back at the half hour, I guess.
Cool.
Okay. Be right back.
All right.